Welcome to the Stahls Heat Press for Profit podcast, a show designed for people who are trying to make it in their heat print hustle. I'm your host, Josh Ellsworth, and today we're excited to welcome Stacy Murphy from Written in Stitches. Written in Stitches is located in Swartz, Louisiana, and offers monogramming, vinyl t-shirt designs, and decals, as well as apparel and gifts. We're excited to learn more about Stacy's small business on today's show. Stacy, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you.
Can you spend a minute or two telling our listeners a little bit about your business?
Sure. I started out small at about 10 years ago, actually, while I was teaching. And, of course, I work from home. So I actually didn't go full-time until 2015. So I'm fairly new doing full-time heat press and monogramming. I started out just monogramming, and then the customers requested more of the heat press, and so I ventured off into that for about a year and a half now. And I love every minute of it. Working from home does present some challenges, and as somebody who was a teacher, I had no business background, so learning along the way has been interesting.
I bet. I bet. Good. Well, that's good to learn. So before we have an in-depth conversation and go into some of that stuff, let's give our first-time listeners an overview of the show, and the format is simple. We host casual conversations with apparel decorators like Stacy in hopes that we might make a difference in their business and yours. And that's it. That's the format of the show. So teachers, that seems to be the theme on my podcast. So you were a teacher, and then you moved into part-time monogramming?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, and with just a home embroidery machine?
Yes. Well, I got a commercial machine, but I was doing it from home.
Okay, all right, excellent.
Yeah.
Good. So I always like to start with a good overview of your business, and I know we've received a little bit of that, but can you kind of walk us through how you make apparel today? So I heard embroidery and heat press. I guess specifically, what technologies are you using with your heat press?
I do have a Stahls heat press, Hotronics, and I have the Silhouette Cameo is what I'm using as far as the cutter at this point. So those are the machineries, I guess, that I use for the heat press.
Okay.
Of course, I design in the Silhouette Design Studio. I haven't quite gotten to the point to where I can get one of the big, nice, huge cutters at this point, but here's hoping.
Well, that's all right. You said you've only been really doing the heat transfer work for 18 months, so I'm really curious. How did you learn about it? Why did you decide to move your business in that direction?
Customer request was the reason that I moved in that direction. I just had a lot of requests for that. I do a lot with sports, school groups, and things like that. So I saw that there really was a need for me to do that. And it has really proven to take off. I do more heat press than I have ever done monogramming. So it was definitely a step in the right direction. As far as learning, I just dig into things like this. Y'all's group on Facebook has been great. Just YouTube videos, anything that I can do to grab, but learning from others and trying not to reinvent the wheel is the main thing.
Yeah, I think that's a good strategy for sure. So you have the Silhouette cutter. Are you doing any other heat transfer products or just the vinyl that you cut currently?
Just the vinyl at this point.
Okay. And then as far as sales, are you selling a lot online, in person, at trade shows? What's kind of the sales experience there?
I do a lot. A lot of my stuff is local. I have a lot of schools and youth sports groups that I sell to. I do have online presence, but again, a lot of it is still local-ish. But people are so busy now that it's easier to sell online than it is for them to stop and come see me and things like that. So the online definitely helps.
Good. And I know we're going to dive a little bit deeper into online sales, specifically with social media and marketing later in the episode. But one of the things that came through on the show notes that I was really curious about now that we have a good overview of the business is working from home and some of the challenges that has presented to you, and really how you've been able to overcome those challenges.
Yes. Like I said, when I first quit teaching and I came home to do this full time, there was a bit of a gap between the salary that I was making teaching and what I was making here. So, of course, anything that came along, I was grasping for business. And I really allowed, and it was on me, that I allowed people to extend my business hours, to call me and talk shop at 10 o'clock at night, or to come by and pick up orders, just whenever it was convenient for them, no matter what I was doing and no matter the time, just because I wanted that business. And after doing that for about a year, I realized how much I was missing out on my own things with family and things of that nature, and how unhealthy it was just personally. And so I really had to step back and start creating those boundaries and stick to some business hours. Of course, working from home, you do have flexibility, and that is a perk. And I'm not saying that I don't extend hours sometimes and things like that, but just to really stay within a specific time for the most part. And but it was hard to get them to understand that after I had allowed everything to go so freely the first year.
Yeah, I could see that, especially when customers get used to doing business a certain way and taking advantage of some of those late night hours. So, like, as far as communication, did you do like a global announcement to your customer base, or did you try to just take it more in one-on-one interactions when you made this change?
I did a little of both. I did make an announcement. One thing I've discovered throughout this process is that a lot of people don't like to read your announcements. And so I did have to double up and reiterate one-on-one. Probably the biggest thing was that, of course, starting out, a lot of customers were also acquaintances. And so, they thought that just because we were friends or acquaintances, that it was okay for them to go to the movies and to dinner parties and things like that, and to just stop by on their way home at 10 o'clock and pick up something because they knew me. And so that's been a very sticky area that you have to tiptoe through, but it's actually gone much more smoothly than I expected it to.
Good. Well, that's great to hear, because I'd be worried stopping those late night hours. You may have to drop the company logo on your pajamas, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's call ahead, please.
Yes.
Yeah, that's funny. So, one of the things that I hear, like with what you're talking about, it reminds me of, when a lot of people start their business, you're doing a lot of business with friends, and you mentioned acquaintances. Did you also struggle at all with pricing, or people wanting discounts or a special when you were starting to kind of roll out the product line?
I actually run into that more now with people that I don't know as well. My friends and family, I think, really wanted to see me succeed, and I really didn't run into that with them as much, which kind of surprised me. And my pricing compared to some of the pricing in town is very competitive. So I was not the highest priced in the area anyway, and so that helped a little bit. But I find now that there are just some people that are absolutely going to want that discount, and they want it at rock bottom prices, and they have no idea what it takes that goes into the garments and things. And I can honestly say that as a shopper, before I started doing any of this, that I could have very easily been one of those people. I didn't realize the steps that it took to get a garment from point A to point B, and what the costs were. So it actually opened my eyes too a lot, just shopping personally. I'm a lot more willing to pay for things now than what I once was.
Yeah, I think that once you have a good appreciation for the process, it can command a little higher price. So when you do get those price objections, do you build a little bit of room into your pricing model for discounting, or do you just kind of hold firm?
I do build a little bit of room, but when I have those people that are just really wanting me to basically give it to them and at cost, I have learned again. At first, I was thinking I just needed the business, I just needed the referrals and things like that. But I have learned to very nicely decline and let them know that that's the absolute lowest that I can do it, and if they can find it somewhere else, then there's no hard feelings, because I can't work for free. I didn't come home to work for free, and that was hard for me personally as well, because I'm a people pleaser and I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. So, but I have learned that I have to make something.
Yeah, it's very important. When I posted in our Facebook group, which is Heat Press for Profit, towards the beginning of the year and asked for some book recommendations, I saw a lot of our apparel decorators on there have read a book called Profit First, and I'll have to look back at the exact author. I think there's a few different versions of it, but I know that when I'm out there talking to folks, apparel decorators generally struggle with that because we are people pleasers. We're creating cool looks and really creating smiles with personalized apparel, but profit is an important element, so you can continue to do that for the long term and be successful.
Right.
Good. So it's great to learn a little bit. So first, I'm excited to hear that you've been doing this for 10 years and you're coming up, or maybe you've reached your 5-year anniversary of full time.
Yes.
That's great news. So you said originally there was a gap between your salary and the move you made to go full time. Are you in a position now to where you've been able to close that gap and feel like this is a business that can sustain for the next 5 years for you?
I definitely think it will sustain. It has gotten more profitable each year. I still am not making what I made when I left teaching. I had been doing that for quite some time, but it has grown each year. The customer base, the bottom line has gotten better every year, and so I just keep pushing forward, and I do think it's something that will continue.
And you mentioned the customer base. So when you say the customer base, do you mean the count of customers that you're serving and repeat orders, those sorts of things?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because that's a great foundation for continued growth and longevity. So what do you think's holding you back right now from getting the business to the level that you want it to be?
The social media, I think, is hindering me some, just because I am doing this by myself at this point, and so to create and produce the things that I need to do, as well as give quotes and things like that, it seems like I don't do well with having or finding the time to get that social media out there to really push. My customers are wonderful with word of mouth and referrals and things like that, and that's awesome. But I think that I need to step it up myself in the social media area, and that's something that I really want to focus on, because I'm just at that point to where I really need to hire and train someone else to come in and help me. But it's just kind of at that really, I guess, just seesaw area of some days I need it and some days I don't, and so I just kind of want to push to the next level to where it would be beneficial for me to go ahead and make that step as well.
Sure, no, that makes sense. How much time a day would you say that you spend on the activities of sales and marketing, like as a percentage? Just even to
Probably
ballpark it.
10%, maybe.
10%?
Yeah, a lot of it is production and design.
Okay. And how would you split that between design and production?
If I was just splitting the two, it's probably 60-40, 60 design, 40 production.
Okay, so you're spending a fair amount of time on design work and coming up with concepts. It
Correct.
sounds like.
Yeah, there's a lot of I have a lot of very specific people wanting, you know, very particular things, and so yeah, that takes up a lot of time.
Well, I think it's if you're rolling that into how you are unique and deliver value, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'd like to dive a little bit deeper. What would you say your average order size is, like from a quantity of items, shirts, or whatever it might be?
My average order would probably be, I would say 10 to 15. I mean, I do a lot of one-off items, so I'm not opposed to doing that. But at the same time, I also do some big groups where I'll do 200. So it
Hmm.
really swings and varies.
Good. And this is a tough one, but are you charging anything for your design services?
I actually don't.
Okay.
And that's something else that I have really pondered about working in, because I know I need to. I know that it takes up the time, and but I haven't done it in the past. Again, for wanting to get started, wanting to get those business accounts, and but it is something that I do need to work into my model.
Sure, makes sense. And trust me, there is nothing wrong with when you are starting, and I want our listeners to hear this, to have there's a certain cost to acquiring a customer. You can either sink that cost into marketing expense, or you can sink that cost, which sometimes comes in the form of personalized design time, personalized service, extended hours, into something else. As long as it translates and drives the goal of repeat customers, the thing you have to watch out for is establishing your customers on a solid foundation that's going to be scalable. Because as you get further down the road in the business and your customers are trained a certain way to do a certain thing, like we've heard here today,
Correct.
breaking that cycle can become very difficult. So you want to be cognizant of that in the early stages of your business and know where you want to be 5 to 10 years from now.
Yes.
Now, having said all that, I'd like to dive a little bit deeper on the social media aspect, since you've identified that as an area that you want to be able to put a little more energy into in order to grow. I kind of did a little bit of exploration before we started the show and looked at your Facebook page, and it seems like you also run a Facebook group. Is that accurate?
Yes, the group is more of what I do. The page was kind of what we did starting out, and I'm actually in the process of getting the members that aren't in both moved from the page to the group, so that we can just have that one spot, because the group is not very active, but there are a few members in there that haven't transferred over and that miss some things.
Okay. And what does a day in the life look like in your Facebook group? If I'm a part of it, what can I expect to see over the course of a week or a day?
Over the course of a week, because I don't post every day, which is something that I would like to do. If I have new products that I'm offering in pre-orders, I will put those up, because I do have some accounts where people have requested boutique style items and just different odds and ends, and so I do buy-ins and things with stuff like that. I'll post those and put the time link that we have to get those orders in. Or if I've designed, like I just ended an order Monday. We have a lot of baseball, softball starting up in the area for middle school and high school, and a lot of my customer base is involved in those types of things. And so as I was designing for some of the schools, I also designed for some of the fans and made a big post on the group to be able to order some of their fan gear and things to get started. So it just kind of varies. But that's something that I would like to do, is to be more consistent with posts, even if it's just something to get them active and keep the group at the top of their forefront of their minds, I guess.
Sure. No, and honestly, when I was looking at the group posts, it seemed like you were pretty active. You always had new items rolling in, and I know you may aspire to be even more active. But I thought as far as like the outgoing content, I felt like it was a really good cadence. It seemed like you were active every week, and I could tell like you source an item, you generate interest in that item, and it seemed like you collect orders and basically produce after you've collected so many orders through Facebook Messenger. Is that right?
Correct. Yes, they can. I have, of course, the acquaintances that still text me, but I try to keep as much of it on the page as possible, just for my organization. But of course, I still have to look through the messenger and through text because they're all going to do it those ways. But
Yeah.
yes,
So
I do try to get the money up front and then do the production, just because I have learned again, people change their mind at the last minute, and after you've spent your money and ordered specific sizes and decorated it in very specific ways, those are harder items to sell. So I like to get that commitment from them up front.
I love it. And I want everybody to really hear that is money up front is important. Don't be afraid, especially on new customers, to be able to collect payment in full up front. I know on a 200 shirt order for a group or a reputable organization, often the norm is 50%, but we're seeing an overall trend in the industry to collect and be able to ask for that money up front, because that is such a major issue.
Yes.
In this industry, I think across all industries, is really collections and having people change their mind and cancel. And you've already sunk how much time into the product, and not only lost the cost of the product, but the cost of your time.
Correct. And one thing that I had to, I guess, tell myself too, was that if I go online and I order something from Amazon or anything, they don't let me pay when it comes in. I have to pay up front. So it's really no different.
Yep, agreed. We're all trained to work like that, so take advantage.
All right.
Okay, so I did have some ideas when looking through your Facebook group as well. So
Okay.
It looked like you had a lot of content going out with photos of items and collecting orders, but maybe it was just in the group, the part of the group I was in, but it seemed like there was limited engagements of customers, actually smiling customers wearing or holding or representing your stuff.
This is true. That is
Yeah.
very
So
true.
I think that can be as powerful as anything, because when you get a large group and you start to build audience as part of the group, or followers or members, whatever you want to call it, I think having customers wear the stuff would be really powerful and encouraging them, giving them some benefit or perk for posting a photo. I think that could be a really good thing in the group. So I think that's
That
one
sounds like a
idea. And
wonderful
then
idea.
the other part is just to take it a step further, rather than just the customers sharing it online out of the goodness of their heart, so to speak, is to come up with a way to motivate them to do so, whether that is, taking everybody that shares something in the month, let's say of March, and putting them into a group for a giveaway, or incentivizing them in some way to complete that action, to be able to share it, because that's only going to benefit your business, and it's going to really give an opportunity to drive better engagement. So I think that would be just a way to take it to the next level.
Okay. That sounds like a great idea.
Good. So some of the other things that we had as we were planning for the show, so far we've talked about setting boundaries with customers working from home. You shared some great tips on that. We've talked about design charges, whether or not to charge them. We've talked through some marketing concepts, specifically with social media. One of the other challenges you noted facing the business is building a good design catalog. So can you elaborate a little bit on what you mean by that?
Sure. I think, as with many of us, we have customers that come in and request specific things that may not, they can be generalized for other customers as well. But also, I know over time you end up with lots of designs collected. And with me doing embroidery for as long as I have tons of those. And now with the vinyl, I've built up a lot of those as well. And then you have customers that come in and they're a little more open, and they're like, well, I'm not really sure what I want. I kind of have a little bit of an idea, and to be able to open up and offer them some choices. I've worked on building a design catalog that they can flip through and look through. The problem that I come up with is, I want to include it all, and because I know what I have, and I know that some things are more well liked by the general public, but then you have the customers that do like some of the other things as well. It's just hard to include everything, but at the same time, I don't want to leave anything out. I also don't want to overwhelm them with choices either, because I do know when I give my font sheet, I have the most popular font sheets for monograms, and it may have 12 fonts. And some people come in and they know exactly what they want, and some people will stare at those 12 fonts for 30 minutes trying to decide. And I think, wow, they don't need a design catalog, you know? So it's kind of finding that balance, and how much is too much versus how much is not enough.
I agree. That is one of the most difficult things in any business, is how to simplify, to have choice and have selection, because there's definitely something to be said for having selection because customers have different tastes, but also simplifying the presentation with what you put out front. So I once read a study, I believe it was from Brown University. It was all about the paradox of choice. And in this particular study, they went into two grocery stores, and one grocery store stand set up, and it showcased like 20 or 30 different flavors of jelly. And then another stand set up in a controlled test in the same way, same grocery store, different day, and only showed 3 different selections, if I remember the study right. And actually, the store across the same period of time, although there were a lot more people that came up to the booth when there were 20 items for the selection, what ended up happening is the store with only 3 flavors for selection grossed higher sales over the same period. So just the concept of customers being able to digest the information and make a choice. And I think your font example is a great example of that. Is, boil it down to the top options, maybe start there. And then if a customer wants to go deeper, you always have the ability to pull out that second page, but maybe not leading with all of the options that you have.
Okay.
So that would help.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting to me and kind of opened my eyes when we think about that, even when we're showcasing, heat transfer vinyl choices and transfer formula choices, et cetera, because a lot of our customers, like you, get confused by the sheer volume of products. And so we always challenge ourselves to be able to inspire you, to offer you selection, but to, at the end of the day, try to keep it as simple as possible, because, there's the 80-20 rule of what actually sells.
Right. Yes, that's a good point.
Yeah, so the design catalog, though, I think as well is interesting. So the Transfer Express business, are you familiar with our Transfer Express division at all at Stahls?
I am.
Yeah. So they do a really nice job with the idea book that they publish every year, which really is a design catalog, and it has thousands of templates that can be customized, thousands of pieces of clip art, and probably hundreds of fonts and hundreds of color choices and ink. And what's really nice about that piece is for that customer that doesn't have a very specific vision, they can flip through that online, or they can flip through that in the store, or you can let them borrow it, and they can, get inspired by a bunch of different options and come back and say, hey, I at least like this template or this layout, and here's how I'd like to customize it, because building from scratch is a really difficult thing. So I do believe you're on the right track with trying to come up with a design catalog. So I'm just curious right now, how are you showcasing those designs once they hit the catalog, so to speak?
Once I have my catalog?
Yeah, is it a printed piece, or is it online? Okay.
I do have, both. I do have a few galleries online of some of the baseball and football things that I do, because like I said, the sports are a really big seller here for me. Mm-hmm. So I do have some of that for the schools here online, but also I do have some printed copies here in the store, because when they come to me, they like to be able to have that tangible flip through. And of course, we never know when technology is going to not work for us right in that moment. And so having that in line for them to be, in hand for them to be able to flip through is really helpful. So.
Yeah, and if they pick a design that you've already created in the catalog, odds are, like we talked about earlier in the episode, you can most likely reduce your art time substantially.
Correct.
Because it's built from something that you already have saved and templatized.
Yes,
Good. And I think you're doing it right. I love that you said you do a gallery by baseball and football and some of the more popular sports, and we've continued to preach start with the customer. And I think the same is true here. Figure out what market vertical you want to reach, and I would segment the design catalog by that market and be able to just showcase that. And then you can at least start with, what are you looking to decorate for? If it's band shirts, here are some concepts around that. If it's football fan shirts, here are some concepts around that.
Yes. That's kind of what I try to do is categorize so that it's at least easy for them to find what they're looking for.
Good. So I think this is as good as time as any for our listeners. If you have ideas around some of the topics we're talking about, this is the Heat Press for Profit podcast. We do have a Facebook group that's called Heat Press for Profit, where you can jump into the conversation thread on any of these episodes and many other conversations that happen there. So if you have any ideas on the topics we're discussing, specifically the design catalog, we'd love to hear your feedback, because there is no right answer. There's just different ideas for different folks in different markets, and we'd love to hear yours. Okay, so as we transition towards I'd say the back third of our episode and our time together here today, Stacy, did you have any specific questions for me? I always like to turn it over and say, are there anything, even whether it's a Stahls product, a Transfer Express product, a decorating challenge, any questions that you have for me that I can answer specifically?
Actually, one of the things that I have not done well with, I guess, is, or know how to do exactly, is ganging designs on the sheets when you're ordering the transfers. I've had some bigger transfers that I've ordered that I didn't need to do that for, but then I've had some others that I thought would be beneficial for me to be able to do that, and I just wasn't sure how to do that.
Sure. No, so there are really two ways that we make a transfer today, and it's relevant to how you can gang images. So in the traditional screen printed transfer product line, where we are actually burning a screen, like in screen printing per color, we'll start with an 11 by quarter by 14 inch sheet, and that's for our Plastisol ink formulas. And for those ink formulas, basically you need to have same colors used in the designs to be able to gang images. And if you go online to transferexpress.com and you have a login, there is a Easy View Designer, it's called. It's basically our design tool where you can get to all of the layouts and clip art pieces that I was referencing earlier in the idea book. Okay. And you literally can just build your design. It'll give you a sort of dotted line or a framework of the full sheet, and you can fill that sheet with designs. As long as they're in the same colors, it's not going to drive any cost difference on the product. So a good example of something I did recently is I had a design that was purple and white that was going onto the sheet that was my primary design. And that design only took up like an 8 by 10 image. So I still had 4 inches across the top of the sheet. So I just used that extra space to create additional white designs only because I knew that would be something that I would use in my business that would be very popular. And I've already paid for the real estate. So I literally just grouped it up. And, if you think of Tetris, you remember the game Tetris?
Yes.
Being able to, visualize the shapes and group them, knowing that you really just need enough space in between those designs to be able to run your scissors, or if you want to be more efficient, your paper cutter, to be able to, to inventory those and then use them when you have a job. So does that make sense?
It does. Yes.
Okay, so that's for your standard Plastisol spot color transfers. Something that's happened, I would say, over the last 3 months, as we're recording this here towards the end of January, is a new technology called digital screen printed transfers. And one of the benefits of this category is you don't have the cost of burning a screen for every color. You only burn the screen once, and you digitally print all the colors. So it's really a hybrid technology that combines digital printing. Think of just printing on your color inkjet or laser printer. So we do that. We print all of the color that needs to be in the job, and then we just back that printed color with screen printing ink. So we're only burning one screen to be able to back it with ink unless you need a dye blocker or some technical attribute of the product. So in that case, what I really love about this product is you get a nice 11.5 by 18 inch, so it's a larger format sheet, and we don't care how many colors are in the design or what colors the design are. We see our customers now able to gang single color designs with 3 color designs, red designs with blue designs, and really they're just working to build up quantity to save money. So it's a real game changer from a technology standpoint.
Oh wow, I had not heard about that one. That's really good.
Yeah, and so the product name of kind of the all-purpose product is called Stretch Litho, and this is our matte formula, which is the only one we offer. It's a real nice matte finish, but take a look at that. I'll send you some after the episode, but I think that's something new, and it basically takes out a lot of the headaches and the really what drives cost in the process for a screen printed transfer.
That's awesome.
Cool. The other thing I did want to mention is, because you said you did a lot of vinyl work and a lot of embroidery work, is how are you deciding when you move from heat transfer vinyl into a screen printed transfer? Do you have a kind of a decision making point on that you're utilizing?
Excuse me. Just volume. If I'm doing something that is, just a couple of shirts for somebody, then I'll just do it here. When I get to the point that I'm doing a group of shirts, and like I do some things for the fire department, my husband works there, and I will order those, or for a fundraiser, things like that. Then I'll go ahead and order the transfers, obviously for time and that thing. But yeah, if it's just, because like I said, I still do a lot of, mom shirts and things for sports. And of course, I'm not doing those specific numbers and things in volume. Somebody will just come in randomly and want one. Well, I'll just do those in-house.
That makes perfect sense. Doing the low quantity custom type work on the vinyl cutter, and then kind of giving yourself a relief on the labor element and the cost element once you hit quantity. So perfect.
Right.
Good. And then I'm just curious, in your vinyl business, what are you seeing the demand for down in Louisiana? What sorts of finishes? Is glitter still popular, or what's popular down there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And you'd be surprised. I do more glitter for adult ladies than I do for little girls.
Yeah, especially with mom shirts and fan shirts, it stands out.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
Any other finishes that are hot, or is it just basic colors and glitter are what you're utilizing the most of?
We do the basic colors. I prefer the matte finish, and that's my customers seem to like that pretty well. But I do a good bit of glitter, like I said, for the dance teams and things like that. But also, for the boys' sports, obviously, I'm doing a lot of the matte finish.
And any demand at all for like foils right now?
Not a lot, but I think it's because mainly they don't know about them. And so that's something that I'm wanting to do some examples of and kind of get out there so that they can see the variety, because I really think they would like that.
Yeah, I think so too. And especially, typically foil's only been available in a screen printing process, which means at retail and at volume. So if you can show the new, rolls of foil vinyl where we can do the one-off shirts or the mom shirts or the fan shirts. I also think it is kind of a unisex look as well. So you see as many men buying into that foil look as you do women.
Yeah.
Good. So one last thing I want to do before we close out the show. I know there are a ton of apparel decorators at different stages of their business listening. You've been in the business for 10 years, which is great, full-time since 2015, so you're obviously doing a lot right. What sort of, if you had one or two pieces of advice to share with other startup apparel decorators listening, what would you share with them?
If you are working from home, I would say set your boundaries early. Just in general, I think that start off deciding where you want to go as far as your medium, your target groups that you want to look at first, and go there. Don't spread yourself trying to do everything all at once. I think when you can target a certain set of groups or a certain medium, whether it be embroidery or vinyl or whatever, and really get good at that first, and then add on, that you'll be more successful than if you try to take it all on at one time.
I love it. Great advice. I love so setting boundaries. If you're a home business, understanding who your customer is, and then really the point about not spreading yourself too thin applies to both customers that you're focused on, but even more so technology. And I think that's a great point. A lot of folks want to go from 0 to 60, at their first trade show or whatever it might be.
And you get excited about everything that's out there, and you just want to try it all and offer everything. But if you don't learn how to do it correctly, then you're not going to get that repeat business. So I think there's something to be said for offering one thing and offering it really well, and then adding on. Because once you've built that trusted customer base, they're going to trust you when you offer something new.
I love it. Well, Stacy, thanks so much for coming on the podcast and volunteering to be a part of it. And I think that your business is doing phenomenal. You're open to learning. You're asking great questions. And I think you have a really good idea of where you want to go. So you're certainly going to be successful as you move throughout the business. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
All right. We also hope that you as the listener found something on today's show that inspired you. Hopefully you can relate to some part of Stacy's story, or at least pick up some advice and incorporate that into your business as you expand or start in the world of apparel decorating. If you'd like to ask follow-up questions, just look for our show conversation thread over at our Heat Press for Profit Facebook group, where you can network and share ideas with thousands of businesses aiming to make a profit with heat printing just like you.